Hi, everybody. It's Linda G with my Let It Be shirt, and we have Andre here.
Hi, everyone.
Is the smoke affecting you guys at all out there?
A little bit. It was bad a few days ago, and then it cleared up, and now it's back again. But now they call it moderate. A few days ago, they said, don't even go outside because it was so bad.
Yeah.
Then it cleared up, and now it's returned.
Well, someone sent me an email. I was very surprised. Big, huge fire in Louisiana.
Yeah, it's everywhere, though. In Greece, the climate change thing. It's remarkable to hear, that goofball, Vivek Ramaswamy, he's the latest and greatest, of the stupid dupes. And when he was asked, he said climate change is a hoax. Like he's trying to do Trump's thing, right? And it's remarkable. That's all I can say.
And did you see that he said we need to drill more and we need
yeah. But like one of the commentators said, the woman that she was on in 2008, she was one of McCain's people, and she said that didn't work in 2008 and it doesn't work now. Drill baby drill, that didn't get them very far. They lost that election badly. So it's pretty remarkable that we're experiencing it and that there's an entire party unwilling to confront that. Like when he said that, none of the other people said, well, that's not right. They just go along with it, much like how the same thing, they're all on stage there. They were asked about women's rights and all of them are on the same page. It's not a good page. That's not going to work for you. It's completely crazy.
But I thought Nikki Haley was the best, but people were writing me saying, listen, she talks from both sides of her mouth. She's flip-floppy.
Sure. And the idea, she said 75, some large number, 3/4 of the country don't like Trump. Trump is responsible for an $8 trillion addition to the debt. She even said, we're not likely to win. But then when asked, would you support him if he was convicted of a felony? And she was one of the first to raise her hand. So we're living in a crazy time because, like one person called it about the way all these Trumpers are behaving, incoherent defiance, right? Like it makes no sense, but no, we're just going to keep going with this guy. Okay, fine, continue. But to me, it's a horrible plan. Trump winning the nomination would be the biggest gift you could give Democrats because his behavior and the whole plan, including the charges and everything else, all that has to do is chip off another 2 or 3%, and it's over. There aren't enough votes already. He's already behind the 8 ball. It would make it even worse. Not to mention, don't forget that next year the E. Jean Carroll thing returns, and so then by the time we get into the summer, you're going to see ads. This guy is a convicted rapist and a convicted. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. It's just unbelievable that we're even talking about it.
We were talking before we started taping. You did mention that even if he's convicted, like for Georgia, he'll appeal till the cows come home.
Yeah, like there's no way, if you think about the way our legal system works, especially someone like Trump, his technique has always been to appeal things all the way to the end. And he has the resources because, in part, all these followers of his, it's just remarkable to me that this billionaire keeps asking for money and he keeps getting it. I mean, you gotta hand him that it is remarkable what this guy can do.
Oh, he put his mugshot on merchandise and
like, I mean, why would you pay $34 for that? $34 for a t-shirt with Trump's face on it. No way. There's no way.
Look at him on TV. I have to shut it off.
Yeah, exactly. So because he has the money, though, he then can keep it going. And and you see this with people that are far less powerful and far less everything. You can extend your legal life, a long way. You can keep it going. Even people that, they're sentenced to death. Look up how long it takes between when you're sentenced to death and you actually are put to death. There's a big swath of time. People appeal, they contest it. there's a lot of due process. This is Trump's genius. He knows this about our system and he keeps milking it. So if you're thinking he gets convicted by Jack Smith, for example, because that's probably the most likely case, that doesn't mean he can't keep running. And when the party that you're with is willing to go along with you and do, that's what will happen. But something else could stop him. And you and I were talking about how the most likely thing could be a health event, because that's there also in his chart, right? So that's a possibility. Or maybe it's possible too that since the numbers say that now more than 50% of Republicans would prefer to have someone different, even though Trump is leading, possibly another person might jump in, like Youngkin or, you know, some individual. This group of people they have, though, I don't think any of them, I think all of them are there, you know, to pass the time. I don't think they're going to get the nomination. DeSantis is basically a horrible politician, and Chris Christie is a little too truthful for them. This Vivek guy is a nut bar, you know, in my opinion. He's like RFK on the right, you know,
Right.
conspiracy theories, total insanity. Nikki Haley, first of all, Nikki Haley is, I think, the smartest of the group. She's a woman. The people that follow Trump, they're not going to vote for her. You know, she really gets disqualified. So Mike Pence, what's Mike Pence doing? You know, 1 minute he's telling you that Trump was trying to get him to do something awful, and the next minute he's raising his hand saying he's going to support him. You know, I mean, how do you support a person like this? It's crazy.
Yeah. The latest is that he fired all his Georgia attorneys. The rumor is that they had gone through the money. He gave them a chunk of money to start with, and they were asking for more money, sending bills, and he fired them all.
Well, I mean, nothing. Does it surprise you? No, it doesn't surprise me.
Surprise me.
I mean, the thing is, Trump is the classic case, and you see this with people that are either very obstinate or even mentally ill. They always want the lawyer to tell them what they want to do. But, you know, lawyers sometimes tell, you know, you can't do that. Like, you know, that's why his real lawyers like Cipollone and Hirschman were saying, you can't do this. So then he waits till he finds Sidney Powell, who says, oh, yeah, you can. Sidney Powell was saying, we can just do everything. And where's Sidney Powell now? She's got to pay her own bills, and she's, you know, in Georgia. So is that other guy, Eastman, you know, because they were telling him what he wanted to hear. But that's not necessarily what the truth is.
They all showed up.
Yeah.
No, I don't know astrology wise, if you can tell, but that cheeseburger, he wants an early, I think she's going to give it to him. I think Fanny is going to give him an early trial.
Well, she already did. It's just that what I don't know, because I don't know enough about the law, is whether or not she'll argue that they should all be tried together. Because if he goes first, then the other people can see what the evidence is, and it's not as powerful for her. So if you think about the fact that it's a racket, racketeering is there's a group of people doing something, right? So she should, I think, argue to the court, they all have to go together. We can't have one of these people breaking off, because Trump doesn't want to go. Trump wants to delay, right? And many of these people, Giuliani doesn't want to go right away. Giuliani wants to wait. So the question is, though, whether the judge will tell Cheesebro that he has to wait. And that I don't know. But I think he's also, though, I don't think he'll get away with what he did. He's clearly implicated in.
Definitely. He's the mastermind.
Yeah, he's one of the people in the back.
He's the one that said about the other electoral people, the votes. He made that fake claim.
Yeah, and I mean, and part of the problem that's going on, you can compare to other trials. There's a case in Georgia, racketeering. I think it's Fani Willis's office, or it's the office of the attorney in that county, and they've been at it for months, and they still haven't picked a jury because there are so many defendants that it's more complicated. So the likelihood is that this thing with Fani Willis probably isn't going to be the one. that will be getting him in trouble sooner. I think it's the Jack Smith.
I think it's Jack Smith too.
Jack Smith
That's
is the
why
one
Jack
that,
Smith didn't do a whole bunch of people,
yeah, he did it on purpose. Yeah.
but he's going to add people after this.
Yeah, exactly.
So, speaking of, I knew this was going to happen, or the writing was on the wall. Pergozzi.
Oh yeah, I had looked at his chart, and I remember
Yeah.
saying, I did it. I remember in the class. I don't know if I put it on the channel or not, but I did a class where I said, till the end of the year, this guy should be careful. Well, he was flying around. It's amazing because first I thought, how did this happen? Who would be crazy enough to get on a plane? Putin, the way he fixed him is he let him fly around for a couple of months, and then
got him.
nobody knows what happened. He thought that this was his plane and he was safe on the plane. No, I mean, because apparently the wing fell off. How did the wing fall off the plane?
Because it exploded because they got shot out of the air.
Sure, or maybe how do you know that they didn't go and loosen the bolts on the wing?
No, because they found shrapnel in the bodies.
Oh, they did. Okay, well then there you go. Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me. But yeah, he was.
Of course, he's going to deny it.
Oh, of course, yeah. He said, what did he say? Putin said something like, "This was a man of complicated fate." No kidding. Working with you, as soon as you work with you, your fate is immediately complicated.
But I also feel this is going to create some chaos
For Putin?
for Putin.
Yeah, well, you mean more than already is the case?
Yeah, I'm feeling that I feel someone coming in that's being very nice to him and then turn around and stab him.
Turn around and stab him. Yeah, that's possible. Definitely. Yeah.
Like someone's throwing accolades towards him, getting next to him, and then boom, somehow or the other. He knows he's going to get executed or something. That's what I'm feeling.
I mean, the main thing with Putin that to me gives me a certain sense of where this is going is that Putin's entire gamble is that Trump or the Republican Party will win the election. And that's not what his chart says for 2025, because the energy gets way worse than it is now. Why would it get way worse? I don't know. You tell me, right? He's a Libra with multiple planets in Libra. Saturn goes into Aries, then that opposes. It's already not in a great place, but that's hardly the plan. It's like DeSantis, I've said this quite a few times talking with you, that it is not a great time for Virgos to be running for president. It just isn't. It's not a good
I was
moment.
going to run too, so don't.
No, I know. You should have done it. So based on that, it's the same logic with Putin. It's a gamble that is, it doesn't work out, basically.
So we got some great questions.
Sure, let's hear them.
Unless you wanted to say something recent that you saw.
No, the only thing I've been talking with you about it today already is that I did draw the different charts for this Vivek guy, and he could actually do fairly well going into next year. And in a sense, he might be maybe, one of the support people for Trump, or I can't imagine though that Trump would pick him to be his VP.
Well, listen, if Trump won again, he would pick him to be in his administration because he has money.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So, but I looked at a few of those, but nothing comes up other than that. For instance, you can see why Pence turned against him. It was like a problem waiting to happen. You see in Pence's chart, he's got this one point where his Saturn is that, through survival, basically, because I think Pence realized the same thing as Barr, right? They realized, I'm not going to go to jail for this guy. Like, it's amazing all these people that follow Trump and they end up penniless in jail. Like, why do you do this? Can't you recognize that he's a mobster and stay as far away from him as possible?
Yeah.
So all of them, I haven't looked at Tim Scott yet, but Tim Scott doesn't look like he's going anywhere either. That whole crew, that whole group, to me.
And Nothenberger.
It doesn't look.
Well, they
good.
say Trump is more entertaining.
Yeah,
everybody likes a circus. So
yeah, sure. Well, entertaining is fine, but he's like an evil clown, and the problem with that is
I saw a guy interviewing. Might have been in Fulton, Georgia. One of the Oh, he said thousands and thousands of people showed up for me. Nope, not the case.
Not
But
the case.
anyway, well, can you tell me what Trump has done? What did he do? Well, he improved taxes. She looked like she wasn't rich. So for who? And then she could not think of anything else.
No, it's a visceral thing. I mean, Trump's ability is he understands where people are resentful and they are upset about something, and many times it's a reptilian thing, because this whole thing is very racist. There's a quality. It started with Obama. Trump clued in right away that a large group of people hated the fact that there was a black president. So he tapped into that and he started saying Obama's birth certificate and making noise about maybe Obama's degree from Harvard isn't really a degree, because how could a black guy possibly be that smart? Like total race baiting. And then the next step from there, then he's running against a woman. That's already a problem, because those people are also very misogynist, right? And then there's this logic that immigrants are coming in to take away your power, right? But like I've said to a number of people, this happens in many, many countries. In fact, all the Western countries, the reason there's a lot of immigration is that white people aren't reproducing. They're not. That's a fact. So then you get other people coming in. That's just how life works. It's always been like this. So yeah. the whole thing is pointless on their part, but he exploits it, and it's very visceral. Like, it's just like, I like the way this guy talks. He makes me feel good. He represents me and pushes away those evil liberal communists and all of that, which is funny, because now you're hearing a lot of conservatives saying that the Democratic Party is behaving more like the old Republican Party. For example, they defend Ukraine. They defend the rule of law. This used to be the message that you would hear from Republicans. Now Republicans are breaking the law every chance they get. Exactly. It's crazy. It's completely upside down, right? So, yeah, very sad. But I don't think that they're not onto the right plan, because even if they found somebody reasonable and ran that person, like a Glenn Youngkin or some kind of individual like that, he'll have to defend crazy positions like the abortion issue. That is not popular. It is not it is very unpopular. It's unpopular in Kentucky. So if it's unpopular in Kentucky and in Kansas, how are you going to get votes in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania? It's a crazy plan. And yet all of them in the debate, all of them said, no, we should have a national ban. Boom. Good luck with that,
Except for Nikki. She said you'd never be able to get a national ban.
Right. No,
she's not enough senators.
Exactly. No. And if she were honest, she'd say, and I also don't support that. You know why? Because I'm a woman and I don't think you should do this to women. So they're running, there was a South Carolina. I heard in South Carolina, their court had upheld the abortion, the way, Roe v. Wade, basically. And then they got rid of the woman on the court. Now they have men on the court, and now they've implemented a ban. So this is men leaning into women that way. It's a really bad plan, right? Because I know from the astrology, the power of women is rising. It's an unstoppable force. So you getting in front like that, you're doing damage to your own plan. So
even Ohio, which is a red state.
Yeah, exactly. Ohio, red state, and they tuned in and they realized, wait a second, these people are trying to pass a law so that they can jam it in. And so they all came out and voted and they stopped it, right? So the point being, who do you put there? Because by the way, in that debate, none of them, I can guarantee you that Chris Christie is probably very secular on women's issues. He would want to say, I don't care about that. That's not, who cares? Let them do whatever they want. But he can't because then too many people and too many of his voters, they're suffering from voter disease. When your voters are basically, let's just call them what they are, they're kind of stupid. I'm sorry. That's the truth. They're stupid people. If you're being followed by many, many people that are uneducated and racist and full of grievances, how is that going to be a good plan in the long term? It would be a good plan if you had a big majority, but they don't have a big majority. They don't. The numbers are against them. So it's a big uphill climb, no matter who they pick. And I think
even Trump said it out loud.
Yeah.
He said, I think this Roe versus Wade turn by the Supreme Court is going to work against the Republicans.
Yeah. But by the way, the problem with that is that now you saw those ads that the Democrats are running. where they put, it's about women's rights, and they have, in one image, you see Trump saying, I brought you Roe versus Wade. I'm the one that brought this in. Okay, well, that's that, right? That's one instance. And in the other instance, remember when he told Chris Matthews, well, what should we do if a woman, and he says, well, I think there should be a punishment. I think they should be punished. Not good.
Remember
right?
that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to get away from postures that you've adopted, because so many people in the party, like the evangelicals, for example, right? They want that. That's why they vote for Trump. They're willing to sacrifice all the religion for the fact that he got them Roe v. Wade judges that actually made it go away. But now it's complicated, their electoral chances, a whole lot. If it's him, it won't matter, because he is so disliked by Democrats, you'll get a big overvote. And if it's not him, it's still a problem, because their positions are indefensible. They make no sense, right?
Yeah.
None. Between women's rights, gun issues, on those two alone, you don't need much more, because most of the votes will go there.
And there's people there that pay for their mistresses. They can fly them anywhere to Mexico or wherever to get an abortion.
It's always
It's
like
not
that.
the abortion, it's about the power.
It's about the power, and it's about, I don't know, it's let's just say this, it's a mistake. It's a mistake. And you know, the idea of saying the way Roe v. Wade was actually pretty fair, the way that law was set up. But they weren't satisfied. You know, they wanted to chip away at it, and they found judges to do it. But politically, it was a really bad move.
Okay, this is from Diane. What would be the planet placement in a chart that would tell that there is a chance of addiction?
Well, that's a great question. Well, the thing you usually see with addiction is you see the outer planets. Like the most direct is Neptune to planets, because Neptune is an escapist energy. So if a person has Neptune and they haven't figured out how to connect to spirit and channel the energy that way, then the escapism can lead you into addiction. But any of the outer planets, like Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, the ones beyond Saturn, tend to be dangerous because they're forces that are powerful and very subconscious. So a person that hasn't figured it out can go into something that, an addiction is like this thing that you're attached to that you think is solving your problems. It's not, it's making them worse. And the more you do it, the more crazy you become, and the harder it is to get out of it. So it's you know, something that is, I strongly discourage people from doing that. By the way, a great place to study addiction is this whole thing that happened with the Sacklers and OxyContin,
Yeah,
what they did to society, and how profound the addiction was, because the levels of drug they were giving people, if you stop taking it, your body starts to shake. I mean, you become maniacal looking. You know, they would go into a pharmacy and break into the pharmacy and look for the OxyContin. That's what addiction can do to you. But you can have soft addiction where it's not nearly as pressing, but you're just like always looking for your fix. And you have to realize you're like a prisoner of your own problem. And it's not just that. I mean, it'd be simple if you said, well, so what's the big deal? I'm addicted to X. The problem is you don't really feel good. You're always doing this kind of thing. Right. So you got to get out. You know, it's like a prison. You got to break away. And when I said about Neptune, the solution for having an escape is to escape into spiritual energies like prayer, meditation, get peaceful inside. Then you can let go of your addiction. Otherwise, you know, that's what you think is giving you the peace, but it only gives you peace for a little bit of time, and then you feel even worse. Right.
Okay.
Anyway, long answer, but
that's a good answer though. So, Lee, I'm an Aquarian, rising Aquarian, Venus in Aquarius. I was wondering if having a large number of planets in one sign will predispose you to a certain life direction with a heavier effect of the characteristics of that sign.
Well, yeah, it does, of course, because if you have a lot of planets in one place, you filter through those planets. So Aquarius is very people-oriented, very, you know, connected to their friends. It's the idea of socializing and always being in that social scene. But even that can take many forms because, with astrology, you got to look at the whole chart, and there might be something in there that counterbalances that a lot. And the person says, yeah, well, I'm like that, but I also have this thing where I need to be by myself for periods of time as well. Because if it's Aquarius rising and there are planets in Capricorn, for example. So you got to look at each individual chart. But the answer to that is yes, if you put a lot of planets in one place, that's your filter. Of course, it makes total sense. Yeah.
Have you looked at Senator Fetterman's health recently?
No, I haven't recently. No, but
Okay, Leslie just wanted to know if you saw anything coming up with his health.
I have not, but I'll take that under advisement. I'll take a peek because is he still, what is the story on him? Is he recently
Improving? He's improving.
He's improving. Yeah. Usually what happens when improvement happens, it's in astrology, you'll see a swath of time where there's health pressure. For example, Saturn is very typical that way. It'll have you in its grip. And then as it starts to move away, then the health improves. You leave it behind. Yeah.
Please address the astrological significance of the October 14th annular eclipse. Does it have more of an impact on those who may experience the eclipse? Thanks. This is from Denise.
I noticed that people always ask this question. There are eclipses every year. There are lots of 13 full moons and so on, and a couple of them, or a little more, are eclipses, and people make a lot out of this. And there's usually much less going on. That eclipse in October is it's a full moon, it's a lunar eclipse, and it's a partial eclipse too, but it's around 5 degrees Taurus. So what's really happening is that people that have planets near there, they feel it more. And what I notice about eclipses is it's a bit like the full moon. It either, in my experience anyway, it's always been like this. I either feel it as a kind of a difficult period where my energy is not good and I need to sleep more and I'm all out of sorts for some hours, or I get this amazing clarity where I'm feeling really inspired, and it's almost like you can't tell which way it'll go, but the energy either way is kind of overamped, either to the downside or the upside.
Right.
And people make a lot out of eclipses, but beyond that, it comes and goes, as you would expect, because they come and go too. They're not like outer planet transits that hang out for long periods, like what is happening to Trump, for instance. He's in a period of a long swath where things just keep happening in the same way over and over. If it were just an eclipse, it would come and go. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Here's a good question from Anne. The Writers Guild strike began during Mercury retrograde. Does this mean it might be resolved now during the current Mercury retrograde?
Yes, although it turns out that the Mercury retrograde that just started ends a little after Venus goes direct. Venus has been retrograde since, I believe, July, with already some effects going back to June. And that's more, that Venus retrograde period is a better correlation than the fact that it may have started on Mercury retrograde. Venus retrograde is a time when people rebel. They're not happy with the consensus of the way things are. They want to push back. And being in Leo, where it's happening, Leo is an artist's, performer's type of sign. So
okay.
That all these strikes that we've been seeing, that's also the Venus retrograde. So in September, at the beginning of September, they're pretty close together. Venus goes direct and then Mercury goes direct. So I would say that probably by mid-September, we should see that resolved, and the people come back. I know I miss the comedians because I would watch them at night, to get a laugh for a few minutes, and they were so good at pinpointing the politics and making it into a joke. And I think it's been since a long time. I mean,
it feels like a long time.
Yeah.
Somebody said, does Jupiter in Leo retrograde, does it do something in the natal chart if you have Leo in retrograde?
Leo retrograde, I mean, this is a broad strokes thing, but Leo is a creative, expressive sign. Like I just said, you connect it to artists and performing and, broadly speaking, creating. So if you have Jupiter and Leo, you have more access to that, the idea of being creating and manifesting things. But because it's retrograde, a lot of that is you got to do it with your mind first. You have to go within and create it as an imagination, and then it has a better chance to express itself. And it's going to be more spiritual, more internal when it's retrograde. But the whole key is that if that person is already creating a lot, great. But if not, work the mind to help you bring it out. That's what retrogrades are really good for.
Okay. What sign and house is the North Node located in America's chart?
That's I forgot now. That's a great question. I think I can tell you. I'll look it up and I'll tell you. And this here, you also get into arguments about the house systems. But yeah. Let's see. It's in okay, so it's in the way I read it, it's in the 9th sign, or 9th house. It's Leo is the American 9th sign. Let me just see out of curiosity if I use a different system, if it changes it. And I'll tell you because some people, depending on the system they use. Yeah, so in some systems, they would put it in the 8th sign. I prefer reading it in the 9th.
Okay.
And one of the things you see with that is the nodes. This is where they're most kind of revealing. Biden has a planet near that node. And you see this, that in people's relationships, wherever your nodes are, you get drawn to people with planets there. And the person with a node tends to get all obsessed with the other person. Like you think that they're something important. They really aren't, but you believe it for a while. Then you realize, why am I thinking this way? I mean, most people anyway. In some cases, it could go on forever. But you see this a lot in important relationships because the nodes link you to that person, right? So in this case, the American chart links to Biden's planet in that same area there, in foreign affairs. That's one of the reasons I know that it has a lot to do with that, because that, like why it is the 9th, Biden really struggled when that planet was getting hammered in 2021, was the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and it went really poorly because the Saturn was hitting it. But then after that, it left, and he's been fine ever since in foreign affairs.
200. Please, Linda, ask Andre to explain YOD in an astrology chart. And is it significant?
Why what?
YOD, Yod?
Oh, Yod. Oh, YOD.
Yod.
Sorry. I thought for a second you were asking me why you OD, and I was going to say, well, if you're ODing, stop using drugs. No, why the Yod? That's it's an aspect where there's an up and down to the Yod. Like everything in astrology, you can never conclude anything is all good or all bad. It's sort of like it's, every possibility in between, depending on the person's overall ability to connect. But the Yod is best expressed if you are work-oriented. You work on yourself. You're constantly working because it has work connotations and especially spiritual connotations, and it can drift into health issues as well because those angles are health related. So to be honest, I probably, if you asked me if I would like having a Yod in my chart, and I wouldn't ask for that one. It's more work than I would want. Like you see it in the charts of people that are very, very spiritual, for example. So spiritual teachers might have that, but you also see it in the charts of totally crazy persons. So whoever asked that question, just go toward the spiritual and you're fine. In that case, you're protected.
So I don't know, did we discuss this? Drama asked, is that Fannie Willis, the new law in Georgia, they can remove her in October. Are they actually going to be able to accomplish that?
I doubt that very much.
Okay, I didn't see it either.
No, I doubt it. Although she does have, you do see it in her chart you see that she has pressures, and this is common. Almost no one in public life, when they're dealing with a bit of a wild situation, because what she's dealing with is pretty intense. So you see the Saturn there. But what's interesting about her chart is that the greatest pressures she experienced were during when she was building the case. During 21 and 22, she's a Scorpio with planets in Scorpio and other fixed planets. That's the work of Saturn. She was working and working. Now she's putting it out there. There's still pressure from other planets in her chart, the Sagittarius planets, and she's got, mutable planets, but it's not as complicated as before.
Good. See. Where was this? Oh, this was a good one. Michelle, is there a connection between current astrology and our wildfire problems?
That one is hard for me to, it's hard for me to point to an astrology. Like, I know that when I looked at the Hawaii wildfires, there was an angle, like at the time, when they broke out, there was an angle in the sky that you would say, yeah, okay, that's a potential fire thing. I think it was Uranus square Venus on that day or
Right.
something. I remember looking at it. But to look at the overall perspective, because, this is happening everywhere. When people think, oh, that's only happening in Canada or in California or New York, it's all over the planet. In Greece, they get these events.
Oh, I
It's
know.
because of climate change. So
Yeah.
there you get into bigger things, like the way the planets are shifting in big ways as we go into the middle of the decade. There are all these sign changes, and something has to be done about this sooner than later, or we're all going to be, drinking water from the ocean or some other worse thing, because things are getting worse. We never used to get smoke here, and now we get it regularly. There are places where,
Canada is up in flames too.
yeah, exactly. So there, to my mind, is you're pinpointing bigger cycles where, for instance, the fact that in the 1940s, Uranus was where it's about to go to. So this is a period of great change in the world, and some
Right.
of that, it could come in, I'm praying, I'm crossing my fingers around technology or technological advances to combat the way the climate is going, either by using energy in better ways or some other system that hasn't been invented yet. But
Oh, God, don't let that Swami, but what's his name?
yeah,
Uh,
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy,
Rama,
he's
Rama,
ex-president. He just wants to take a flame torch to it.
Vivek Ramaswamy, him.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, I know.
I couldn't pronounce his name, and I said swarmy, and my son said, "Don't use that on your show. It'll look racist." I
Well,
said,
it's
"Well,
funny that,
I just can't say his name.
it goes to
I
show you
need
that,
to see that ramen. I think of top ramen, swarmy."
yeah, well, he's clearly of a Indian descent, and Rama is the name of God, and Swami is like a spiritual practitioner. A Swami
Wow.
is someone who goes to meditate. So so that just goes to show you, just because you have the name doesn't necessarily mean you're embodying it, because he's embodying crass, really shallow.
I never
goofy.
saw him speak before, and he just turned me off. He kept interrupting. It was all about him. This is a guy that he's a lot like Trump when Trump was young. He thinks he's all that in a cup of tea. Very
Yeah,
well educated.
yeah, no, and he plays to the noise, and isn't it amazing that this is again the mark of voters that are not very smart. Immediately, I saw this focus group where they were asked, who do you think won the debate? And he got the most hands. And the next person was Nikki Haley. And they were the two loudest. So this is the way these people think. If you yell and scream and you make noise and you're being insulting, I guess Trump taught them that, but in a way, no one can teach you anything. You have to already yourself be that way to appreciate that, because normally I watch a guy like that and I think, okay, maybe if you're yelling and you're saying something interesting, like I thought Nikki Haley said some really truthful things. She
He
said,
said, you keep interrupting.
yeah, and she said, hey, like Trump is the one that spent all the money. Why do you, no one
Oh,
says
and
that.
by the way, Biden used her speech or that part as a thing for him. He said, I believe what she says. And then he put her whole thing in there about Trump was the one.
Yeah, exactly. So there, she's being loud, but in his case, he's just being purposely loud and not saying anything intelligent. But yet they picked him as being, their favorite
Um, Love
person.
Above said, Andre, we know Linda is a Virgo with a Libra moon, and I'm a Virgo rising too, right?
No, Libra rising.
Oh, I thought I was a Virgo rising.
No, it's Virgo
Why
because
do I always mess that up?
I don't know, because you don't track your chart.
No,
I mean, astrologers track their chart, but you can't expect, you know. But yeah, no, that's what makes the reason Virgo is the 12th sign and Libra is the first sign. That's the ascending sign, and that's why you were a nurse for a period, and why the health patterns of that 12th sign, and then the 12th is a very psychic, deep attunement. All of those things are in play from the 12th, not from the first. But the first is having Libra is a nice offset because it enables you to connect with people, talk with people. It's a much more relational energy. Libra is very.
it also
Libra,
has weight problems.
what was that?
It also has weight problems.
Libra? No, that's not it. That's a Jupiter thing. That's a Jupiter.
What's my Jupiter in?
Your
Leo.
Jupiter, no, your Jupiter's in Gemini. It's a different
Oh.
pattern. It's
My
when
Mercury's in Gemini too.
like Jupiter. The problem with Jupiter is that this is where you see more than one thing happening at once. Jupiter in Gemini gives abilities to communicate and get a message out there because of Jupiter being in Gemini. But it also, I can't remember what it was in your chart at the moment, but Jupiter, whenever someone, if they're gaining weight, that's Jupiter, because Jupiter is what expands. There's, you got to work on it. I don't know. That's the most I'll say.
I'm
Yeah.
doing good right now, but yeah, I was up and down most of my life.
Yeah, well, and by the way, the planet that helps you that way is Saturn. And when it comes in more, which it will, the more we get into next year and the year after, that's the planet that comes in and says, okay, now we're going to do this thing. And then, then you.
You mean I got to get off the couch and do something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Is that the lazy part, the Libra? Because my happiest times are not doing nothing.
They're doing nothing. They're doing nothing or not doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
Yeah, well, and it
I used to be go, 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 always in motion. Late, especially after all those events I had and stuff. I do them and I enjoy them, but I really enjoy my downtime.
Yeah, no, and if you do nothing, in a conscious way, that's where the deepest states are. But there's a difference between doing that and then really the whole thing with weight is just food. People have to figure out their food. It's that simple. I mean,
Right.
I know you can get into arguments about this, but
Right.
I'm 100% sure it's a food thing. You have to figure that out for yourself. Everyone has to, in whatever way.
Well, also exercising.
Yeah, well, both. Yeah, right. But see, this is the thing. The irony is that usually the better you eat, the more you feel like exercising. And the less well you eat, you get into a kind of, I can't be bothered. And then you want to exercise. So now it spirals out of control. But the planet that gets you going is Saturn. Jupiter doesn't like working. Jupiter just says, I just want to have fun.
Hey, so they were asking about, they said, we know, damn it, I just told someone she was wrong. She said, you have a Libra rising. I said, no, it's Virgo.
Hmm.
So I wanted to ask you, they want to ask you, not me, because I wouldn't know what it means, what your sun and moon location is.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, Capricorn sun, Sagittarius moon.
Oh, Sagittarius.
Yeah, Sagittarius moon.
Sagittarius is a very upbeat, look on the bright side.
Yeah, it's a strong counterpoint. Capricorn is much more serious, and
Yes, and good with money.
Sagittarius is borderline clown. Like I try to see the farce and everything, and it really helps me to see the hypocrisy and in a way laugh about it, because if it's just Capricorn, it's too serious. But then that can be a problem too, because the Capricorn part of me sometimes thinks, well, you shouldn't. Why are you? You should be more, But
Yeah.
Sagittarius kicks in, and
I know Davy Jones of the Monkees. He's a Capricorn. He was December 30th, same as my first husband. And he managed to put money away.
well, Earth energy, by and large, it's not always true, but Earth energy, which is Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, is usually more practical that way. There's an understanding of how to do things. And also Capricorn, one of the secrets with Capricorn is realizing that you don't need much to be happy, because I noticed
That's
that,
true.
especially as I've gotten older, I noticed that I just buy a lot less things that I would used to buy, and then I would have this thing, and I would go, "Why did you buy this? What was the purpose of this? This was now it's like it could be money, and instead it's this trinket that you can't do anything with." So now I think before I buy something, I ask myself, "What are you going to do with this exactly?"
I know
Otherwise,
Amazon
don't buy
lies
it.
with me. I buy. I see something and somebody, back when I got sick a while ago, everybody was telling me what to take. I had a medicine cabinet like you won't believe. I finally had to get rid of a lot of it because it was expired.
Yeah.
But I like Sagittarius people. They're really fun. But my parents were Scorpios, but they went through the depression.
Yeah, it was
So my dad was the type to say, "Why is that light still on?"
yeah, too, because this is yeah, exactly. Yeah. Makes sense. No,
My mom
Scorpio.
saved coupons from the newspaper, Sunday newspaper. It was so, I never cut out a coupon to this day. But my mom had the big thing of coupons and she went through every single coupon.
Yeah, well, this is the thing that when you think back to the depression, uh, and you compare it to today, and for all the complaints that people may have, the entire world is more affluent. There are people today that other people will consider poor, who would have been considered wealthy back then, because there was such a lack of resources, and uh, things needed to improve. I mean, you can even go back to the 60s and look at movies from the 60s, and people didn't have as much. A wealthy person looks like today, back then looked ordinary. Now there's even more wealth. So people have improved quite a bit.
Yeah, my dad said his mom would make tack bread, which is just flour and water,
yeah, right,
and you
exactly.
bake it, and it's hard. He said if you were lucky, you had some molasses you could dip it into.
Yeah, this is like in the Jewish tradition, they have those what are they called? It's basically, yeah, they're like they look like crackers, and they're flour and water. Well, that's because that's all they had, right? So
That's all
then,
they had. And Dad said you put it in your pocket and you nibble on it all day, so you won't be hungry.
yeah, for sure. But you start to see where this is really interesting, because the U.S. as a country has a number of things in the chart, but one of them is really strong Jupiter and Venus. So Jupiter is very indulgent. It's like then you eat too much. Then all of a sudden everybody's eating everything, and then you start seeing diabetes, people
Yeah.
with too much weight. That's too much Jupiter. So this is why all the planets have two sides. The trick is to find that point where you're using it wisely, right? You're not
Right.
being too restricted, but you're not being too loose, because otherwise things go off the rails. And as a country right now, also, it's in the house of debt, and the U.S. has a huge debt, and that's not good, because
And
uh,
I used to always do the quick. They love the little kid boxes. My kids from McDonald's and all that. That wasn't putting up a healthy. I would get it because it was easy, and they got a little toy. And most of the times, my kids didn't even eat it. They would just play with the toy.
yeah, no, but it is no. This is the thing, that all of those things, they're not great. They're not great, and people underestimate at their peril, because when you're eating like that, you don't feel good. You feel so
Yeah.
then your life doesn't progress. A lot of it to me is just find a way to stop torturing your body. If you feel at ease, anybody that has a good feeling will start creating something. It's natural to create and do things.
Oh
But if
yeah,
you're
definitely.
irritated, then and you won't want to. You'll just feel like slacking
Well,
off.
I'm a lot older than you, but in my day, everything was from scratch. Cakes was from scratch, everything.
Yeah,
My mom cooked, and no wonder, if mom was healthy enough to work, she probably would have rather done that. But she planned out 3 meals a day and, budgeted really good. And I never knew what it was like to be hungry like my parents did.
yeah, no, and again, see, this is where again you see the two things, right? Because they're obviously, who wants to do that? That's no one would want to do that. But then your parents were strong in ways that now people they can't do it. They say, oh my God, they would have thought, what are you complaining about? I mean, just get up and do something. They were used to it, right? They were
Well,
used to.
listen, we thought it was a huge deal to get a Swanson TV dinner. My dad was a fireman, 24 hours on, 24 hours off. So when dad wasn't home, we could, kind of do what we wanted. Mom was famous for saving leftovers, but she put those Swanson TV dinners. We thought that was the best thing since sliced bread. And we'd get to watch the TV and sit with our Swanson TV dinner.
Yeah, no, it's the thing is that whole movement was probably not the greatest thing for all of society because it brings in convenience and something new,
Yeah.
but it's not as good as preparing food. Like I've always noticed, for instance, that if I eat a piece of fish that's fresh, it seems to really agree with me. I feel really good. If I eat something out of a can, it never feels the same way. It always
Really?
feels weirdly off somehow. It's as though it's not as alive or something. So it's kind of telling you that eating out of packages and it's not the greatest idea. It really
And
isn't.
you can make a canned soup. You can make a soup you could get out of a can in a pot. So easy.
Yeah, you can, but it comes
Not
out of a can.
difficult to make a soup.
Yeah, yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, but you got to go through the steps and so forth. So, if you're not into it,
So listen, I want to say something to everybody while Andre and I are talking. I'll just say this out loud. I just got a flash and I see news breaking and I see police cars and fire trucks. Something's getting ready to happen. This is in the United States. Something's getting ready to happen that's going to stop the news. I don't know if it's something significant. It doesn't feel like a natural disaster. It feels like somebody may do something stupid. I just got that.
wow, well,
So I'll just say it out loud because while you were talking, I could see the lights,
I'm hoping it's the Trump family. I'm hoping Ivanka and Junior and are in the middle of it.
Yeah, something's getting ready to happen and I see them getting people out of the way and getting in there. I don't know what the heck. I just saw it. So breaking news is what I heard.
All right. Well, let's hope it's not. Let's hope it.
I never saw a civil war. Never. I don't care if they say civil war till the cows come home. Did you hear that Sarah Palin is saying they better be treating Trump right or we're going to have you can't have a civil war in this day and age. We've got the Army, Navy, Marines, helicopters, tanks. What makes them think that you can go? You don't have those old-fashioned guns anymore. You can bring all the AKs you want and they can take you out in one fell swoop.
No, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, even if imagine that. Okay, so how do you organize? Because people can say, well, yeah, but look, all the Trump followers have guns. Okay, so let's say you've got whatever number. Are they all going to start tweeting that they're going to go to war? If they do that, the FBI immediately sees it. See, this is the problem with our current era because it's really hard to hide. Even if you go, you have this underground group and you're trying to hide your misdeeds, the FBI will put someone in there. They'll throw someone in there to watch. And so it's very, very difficult to organize. And if you do get really serious and you say, we're going to hit someplace, you can bet, they'll mobilize whatever they need to mobilize. Law enforcement, the SWAT team, the Army. Yeah, I mean, I don't think going after the American Army, Air Force is the smartest move, in my opinion, but to each his own.
And
right?
don't hit families with children. And how can you tell a MAGA person from another person? And Democrats have guns too.
Yeah, it's true. And you've seen, by the way, this could change, but I don't see why it would change. You notice that Trump was asking them to be violent and no one ever shows up.
Nobody shows up.
And I
Oh,
wonder why. Do you know
I
why?
know.
Because how many hundreds of them are in jail now, right?
Maddow had a thing on that. She said he asked him to come out in New York. He asked him to come out. The other, and then finally he stopped asking them to come out.
Yeah, and he was going through. I saw this on the report. He's going through the streets of Georgia, and there's not a soul in sight. There isn't anyone with even a sign.
Oh, but he told the guy that was interviewing them, we had thousands and thousands of Trumpsters
Where?
in Georgia.
Well, in his mind, in the Georgia in his mind. That's like a song, the Georgia in my mind. I mean, come on. What? No one. You don't think that would be known? This is so ridiculous. I'm sorry. I think it's more that. I think it's more though that having said all that, you know, realize that this is not going away for a while. So the fact that I don't think the Republicans have a chance in hell doesn't mean they're going to be happy. And so we're going to have tension because
Oh yeah,
they'll
that's
keep complaining and
because
you
you're
know,
going to have your loose cannons out there.
yeah, exactly. And probably, even though you would think, well, there should be a way to win big, it probably won't be a very big win, you know. And so then you're always kind of stuck for now, anyway, in this thing where they keep thinking they might win one of these times. No, it's a bad idea. They're
And
more
will this be a rigged election too? This next one? Yeah, they're going to blame all these
well, of
things
course,
that they did. Yeah, they're going to blame everything.
of course. But
The problem isn't President Abraham Lincoln said it, and it's so true. A house divided cannot stand. So
Yeah.
we as a nation, we can't stand unless we try to learn to get together.
well, there's where there may be a possibility when I look at some of the big cycles switching in the middle of the decade. It might be that the U.S. gets into a conflict with a foreign country,
That's what I was seeing.
like
Something's
serious
gonna
enough that then people start going, okay, well, we're at war with them, or we're so
that they
then we're
just
not,
need to focus, like 9/11.
yeah,
Every person was a great American. Everybody wanted to fight the enemy. So
exactly.
if we got that again, I think climate change is going to tone it down somewhat, but I think some other conflict will bring us back together again.
Yeah, which again, this can scare people, but it's just life is like that. You get these cycles where, in order to go to the next level, you go through a period of tension, right? But it doesn't mean
Right.
that everything is falling apart. It just means
And,
we're transitioning.
and old Bone Spurs, he wants you all to fight on his behalf. And that guy wouldn't fight than the man in the moon.
No, he's brutal.
He's a Bone Spurs. He got out of Vietnam because he was rich. And his doctor said he had bone spurs.
So you have yet, because you've always said that you never get a vision of him being in the slammer, right? He's not in
No,
the slammer.
still don't.
Well, then, I mean, I've often thought that I would be totally happy if he just went totally bankrupt when he had no money.
Oh, yeah, I see that. But I also see him kind of exiting stage left. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's possible too. Yeah, that's possible because,
I don't wish it.
which is
I don't wish it, but people used
never
to
admit it. You never wish it. Never ever wish it.
Back when he was president, people used to wish him gone. And I said, no, because then, you get somebody that would try to take him out, then he would have been such a martyr.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh my God. No, when he got COVID, I was hoping it would be the worst one, but
That's why I said you never wish it. I was trying to probe to ask you, because I remember back in the Trump years, there were yoga teachers here in the Northwest. I mean, the Northwest is said to be really accepting and yoga. Come on, and they were saying, "Why doesn't someone shoot him in the head?" Like yoga teachers. So
entertainment purposes only, you guys.
Right. I
You
know,
don't
I
want
know.
any president assassinated. Oh, I think Jimmy Carter too. He's getting ready to exit sooner than later.
Oh, he's. Do you think he might make it to 2025, or do you think
No.
it's soon? No. I
No
think
way now.
isn't he 99 years old?
He's 98.
98. Okay.
I think he turns 99 in October. I think he'll go before he turns 99.
Well, to me, he's an example of, at minimum,
Oh my God. He
great
just
human being.
volunteered. I used to write him letters and send him a check, and he never wrote me back, but he cashed my check. They all do. All right, my friend. So I'll let you go. Thank you so much.
That was fun. All right.
It was a lot of fun.
I look forward to
I'll
the next
see
one.
you next week.
All right.
All right. You
Bye,
take-
everyone.
Bye, everyone.